Today's lesson is how to solve for a side using trig. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we have to make sure we notice is the type of triangle. So this triangle is a right triangle. In order to solve for a side or angle using a right triangle, we must remember SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA lets you know which trig function to use when. So to kind of help you with this, S stands for the trig function, sine, O over H. C is cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, and T is tangent, opposite over adjacent. Another thing we have to check is the mode of our calculator. When checking the mode, you press the mode button, and we need to make sure that degree is highlighted. So I'm going to arrow down to where degree is flashing, and then I'm going to press enter. And notice how that shifts this box over to degree. And then I'm going to press clear, and it will take it off. So when I press mode again, degree is highlighted. If you're using another calculator, such as your phone, it should say DEG, standing for degree. So now that we're in the right mode, let's go ahead and label our triangle. If you label in this order every single time, you will always label your triangle correctly. So to start, we're going to label the hypotenuse first. Across the 90 is always H. Then I'm going to circle theta, and in this case it's 15, and I'm going to go across theta and put O. Excuse me. That leaves us with the last side of adjacent. So remember, when you're labeling, the first thing you label is hypotenuse, second is opposite, and third is adjacent. And label it in that order because that's going to help you pick the right trig function. So next we have to pick which one to use. So we've ordered, and now we're just going to look at our problem. So we want to think in terms of doubles only. So I have H and X, O and 12. A is by itself, which means I can't use anything with an A in it. So looking through my options, cosine is out and tangent is out, which means sine is the trig function for me. So I'm going to write sine of theta equals, and the O is the numerator, over H is the denominator. And all I'm going to do is sub. So sine of the angle, 15, equals opposite 12 over hypotenuse x. Now what makes this fraction exist is the denominator. So what I need to do is get rid of the denominator. To get rid of a denominator, I clear the fraction by multiplying the denominator to the other side. What that's going to do is it's going to cause the x's to cancel, and I'm going to be left with x times sine of 15 equals 12. Now sine of 15 is just a number, and it's a pretty big decimal, so we want to go ahead and contain that decimal inside of sine of 15. So x times sine of 15, to get x alone, because again, that's our variable and we want to isolate it. To get x alone, we need to get rid of sine of 15. So I'm going to go ahead and divide it to the other side. What I have left, and I'm going to write that over here, is x equals 12 over sine of 15. Now that my x value is isolated, I can type this into my calculator exactly how I see it. So I'm going to press 12 divided by sine of 15 and close my parenthesis. And let's go ahead and round to the nearest tenth. So looking at this 6, that's going to bump the 3 to a 4. So my x value is 46.4. So let's go ahead and do the next one. We're going to do it a little bit quicker this time using the same idea. So I see a right angle. I'm going to go ahead and write SOHCAHTOA. There is no shame in your game by writing SOHCAHTOA on your paper. I have written it on my paper for years. It's not a big deal. It's going to help you remember it. Then I'm going to go ahead and label. So across the 90 is H. Across the angle is O, and that leaves me with A. Doubles only, so the only thing that's single is H, so that means I can't use anything with an H. So tangent is my trig function of choice. So tangent of theta equals O over A. and then I just substitute. Tangent of 30 equals opposite x over adjacent 15. And the pattern is never going to change. I'm still going to go ahead and multiply by the denominator. So times 15 times 15. I'm just moving it to the other side. I always multiply by the denominator every single time. So now I have 15 times tangent of 30 equals x. Okay. My variable, again, is now isolated. So once I multiply by the denominator, I just check. My variable is by itself, so now that lets me know I can pick up my calculator and type it in how I see it. 15 tangent 30 gives us an answer of 8.7. This 6 rounds up, and this will round up to a 7. Okay. Notice the difference between these two. In the first problem, I actually needed to divide by the trig function. So when the x is in the bottom, you'll have to do an additional division step. When x is in the numerator, it's just multiplying. The pattern stays the same every time, but if you want to show your work, that's all we have to do is just multiply by the denominator and then analyze whether or not x is by itself. Let's try the last one. Again, I see a right angle, so that is in my mind. I should be thinking, okay, I got to write SOHCAHTOA. Okay, and then I'm going to label. Notice how I also don't need to change the mode of my calculator. It's going to stay in degree mode until you manually change it. So across the 90 is H, across the angle is O, and that leaves me with A. This one looks like it's going to be another tangent problem. Notice how we have an H by itself, so no sine, no cosine. We're going to use tangent. So tangent of theta equals O over A. And then we're going to sub. Tangent of 45 equals 13 over x. I'm still going to multiply by x on both sides. So x times tangent of 45 equals 13. I'm not going to pick up my calculator yet because my x value is not isolated. So if x isn't isolated, I'm not picking up my calculator. Tangent of 45, again, is just a number, so that means I can divide it to the other side. And we're just keeping that nice decimal contained in tangent 45. We don't want to unleash the decimal until the end. So my trig functions cancel, and I'm left with x equals 13 over tangent of 45. X is now by itself, so that lets me know, okay, time to pick up my calculator, and I'm going to type it in exactly how I see it. So I've got, let me hold my calculator a different way. There we go. 13 divided by tangent 45, close parentheses, and we get a nice whole answer of 13. Okay, so remember, SOHCAHTOA, all you have to do is label your triangle, HOA, decide which one is by itself, and that's how you decide which trig function to use. Your calculator should always be in degree mode, especially if you're using one of mine. If you're using one of my personal calculators during class, these get changed a lot. My calculators get borrowed, so just check to make sure it's in degree mode.